Welcome to the Turkey Hunter Podcast with me, your host, Andy Galliano. In this podcast, I share with turkey hunters just like you how to have more turkeys on your hunting property and how to have more successful turkey hunts. I teach you how to do this with tips and interviews with turkey hunting pros, wildlife management tips, and entertaining turkey hunting stories. Tune in weekly as I share proven and simple strategies to help you have more success this turkey season. Make sure to head over to www.iamturkeyhunting.com to subscribe to receive free turkey hunting tips, tactics, strategies, and product reviews. Also, please visit and like my Facebook fan page. Go to Facebook and search I Am Turkey Hunting, and also feel free to post your turkey hunting photos from this past season and let us know where and when you killed your bird. For all of you Twitter users out there, please follow me on Twitter, where my handle is @TurkeyHitman, and I will be sure to follow you back. And now, for this week's show. Hello, and welcome back to this week's episode of the Turkey Hunter Podcast. You are listening to episode number 141. What makes a shotgun a turkey hunting shotgun? And I am your host, and the guy who spent about 5 hours in an oak tree Sunday afternoon. No, I was not deer hunting. No, I was not hog hunting. Actually, I was up in that tree cutting branches so that I could take the tree down without the tree taking down my house, which is about as far away as what you would need to shoot your 10-yard pin on your bow, if you have a bow that shoots a 10-yard pin. So the tree's down, the house is safe, I am safe, other than having some extremely sore legs Sunday night and Monday. All is good. So the front yard is almost ready for some dirt and some sod, and then new shrubs to follow. I'm getting close to completing that project. I'm excited about that. And I actually have somebody coming today to the house to give me a quote on finishing that project for me, because I'm the kind of person that likes to tear stuff up and leave it for somebody else to clean up. And I have completely destroyed my front yard. There are no shrubs. I'm minus one probably 45-foot tall oak tree in my front yard. I have no grass in the yard. It looks like a barren desert, except for the one big oak tree that's left. All right, well, you guys didn't tune in to hear about landscaping, so we're actually going to talk some guns today, and guns are always one of my favorite topics. I, as you know, am a little bit of a gun nut. I have friends and relatives, and I am sure many of you guys and many of you women listening to this show are more nutty about guns than I am. And maybe I should say nerdy about guns than I am. But we're going to talk turkey guns and turkey shotguns today. And this is a topic that was actually suggested by Jeremy Vincent back in January when I asked you guys to send in some show topic suggestions. Jeremy mentioned that he was in the market for a new turkey shotgun, and he probably has bought one already. And Jeremy, if that's the case, I apologize for not getting to this topic sooner. But this is also something that our very own Turkey Hunter Podcast intern, Cameron, recently has done, and that's buy a new turkey shotgun. If you have the desire and you have the means to buy a turkey hunting shotgun, now is a very good time to do that, because you have a lot of time to shoot the gun, to get your accessories, to make your modifications to it that you want to make before season starts. And so we're going to talk about the topic today. Because as you know, Alabama is one of the first states in the country for spring turkey season to open, and we are 252 days, 10 hours, 27 minutes, and 21 seconds away from opening day of spring turkey season in Alabama. So let's jump in and get to this. And now, so a lot of you more experienced hunters and a lot of you gun nuts out there may start to drift off a little bit when I start talking about some of the basics here. And I'm going to get into those basics right now. I'm going to cover this kind of quickly because, quite honestly, you can kill a wild turkey with a rock and a slingshot if you're a good enough shot with a slingshot and you get the turkey close enough. So when we're talking about gauge or bore, and we talk about chamber length, and we talk about action, those are not really things that are going to determine whether or not we can kill a turkey, but they may determine whether or not we can kill a turkey at 60 yards or 10 yards, or we get multiple shots at 2 or 3 turkeys, or even 1 turkey if you're like me and like to shoot a warning shot just for the heck of it. So I'm going to cover this quickly, so hang in there with me. Gauge or bore. So a 410 is the only shotgun that is readily available today that is not measured in gauge. So the diameter of a 410 shotgun barrel is 0.41 inches. It's the only shotgun readily available measured that way. Now let's talk gauge. 10 gauge, 12 gauge, 16 gauge, 20 gauge, and 28 gauge shotguns are named such because if you take the diameter of the barrel of a 10 gauge shotgun and you make a lead ball with that exact same diameter, a perfectly round lead ball that is the same diameter as a 10 gauge shotgun barrel, it will take 10 of those lead balls that you've just made to equal 1 pound. And that stands the same all the way down. If you take a lead ball that's the same diameter as a 28 gauge barrel, it's going to take 28 of those lead balls to equal 1 pound. And that is how the gauge of those barrels is measured. The smaller the number, the larger the barrel diameter. A 10 gauge barrel has a larger diameter than a 28 gauge barrel. That being said, larger diameter shotguns are able to shoot larger diameter and longer shotgun shells for the most part. And now remember I said for the most part, and they're going to allow you to be able to kill turkeys at longer distances. Okay, so let's talk chamber length. Most readily available shotguns today are chambered in 2.5 inch, 2 3/4 inch, 3 inch, and 3.5 inch sizes. Now, again, typically the longer the chamber of a shotgun, the more pellets and the more powder that shotgun shell will hold, and the longer distance you should be able to kill a turkey at. So let's talk what's readily available today in these gauges and bores in chamber length. So in a 410 bore shotgun, you're going to today be able to readily find a 2.5 inch chamber and a 3 inch chamber gun. In a 28 gauge shotgun, you're only going to find readily available a 2 3/4 inch chamber gun. In a 20 gauge shotgun, you are going to find readily available a 2 3/4 inch chamber and a 3 inch chamber. In a 16 gauge shotgun, you're going to readily find a 2 3/4 inch chamber. In a 12 gauge, you're going to be able to find the most chamber options today of any of the shotguns. You're going to be able to find 2 3/4 inch, 3 inch, and 3.5 inch chambered shotguns readily available today, and shells to go with those as well. Now, a 10 gauge shotgun today, you're only going to be able to find that readily available in a 3.5 inch chamber. So that is information that you're going to want to know, because if you buy a 3.5 inch 12 gauge shotgun, you can shoot 2 3/4 inch shells, 3 inch shells, and 3.5 inch shells. But if you buy a 2 3/4 inch chamber 12 gauge, you're only going to be able to shoot 2 3/4 inch shells from that gun. Again, it's all a matter of how close do you want that turkey to be before he's finally in the effective range of your shotgun. A 10 gauge shotgun chambered in 3.5 inches, shooting a 3.5 inch shell, is going to throw a lot of pellets downrange compared to a 410 bore shotgun with a 2.5 inch chamber. More pellets equals more opportunities to kill. All right, so before we move on and start talking about action on these shotguns, let's talk about chamber length and gauge or bore very quickly. The heavier gauge shotguns, the 10 gauge, 12 gauge, and 16 gauge, are going to have more recoil. The longer chambered shotguns shooting a longer shotgun shell are going to have more recoil. So for a smaller frame shooter, a 410 bore or a 28 or 20 gauge with a 2 3/4 inch or a 3-inch chamber is going to provide less recoil, but also less opportunity to take a turkey at a longer range than the heavier gauge, longer chambered rounds. So if you're trying to size a shotgun for a smaller frame hunter, whether that's a child or a man or a woman who's just smaller, then go with the smaller gauge and a shorter chamber. All right, let's move on to action now. Action to me is something that really has more to do with personal preference than anything else. So action in a shotgun today, our options are a pump action, a semi-automatic, a bolt action, or a break action. Now a break action actually would consist of either a double barrel, or as they're called around the country, side by side, an over-under shotgun where you've got two barrels, one on top of the other, or even a single barrel, single shot shotgun. So I'm going to say this one more time, and I hope I'm not beating a dead horse here. Any of these gauge or bore shotguns, with any of these chamber lengths, with any of these actions, can kill a wild turkey. As far as your action is concerned, it's a matter of personal preference and what you are familiar with and what you are used to shooting and what you like to shoot. When you're hunting, if you're used to shooting a semi-automatic shotgun and you all of a sudden switch over to a pump shotgun, you may find yourself having a difficult time getting a second shot at a wild turkey because you're pulling the trigger on that shotgun after the first round is fired and you have not pumped the action of the shotgun to eject the empty shell that you've just fired and load a new shell into the chamber. So in a hunting situation, you want to hunt with what you're comfortable with and what your personal preference is. Personally, I have shot semi-auto shotguns pretty much my whole life. It was not until about 10 or 15 years ago that I even owned a pump shotgun. And what I did to get myself to where I was used to shooting a pump shotgun is I took the pump shotgun that I acquired on several dove hunts. That is a great way to get yourself familiar with shooting another type of action shotgun. So we're going to talk about these again very quickly and on a very simple level. A pump shotgun is a gun that has a forearm that has to be pumped or pulled towards you in order to eject the old shell that you just fired as you pull the forearm of the gun towards you and load a new shell as you push that forearm back towards the end of the barrel of the shotgun. That's how you load that gun for a second shot or subsequent shot. A semi-auto is a semi-automatic shotgun. When properly functioning, a semi-auto shotgun is going to shoot all of the shells in the magazine of the gun as long as you keep squeezing the trigger of that gun. You have to do nothing to put another shell in the chamber of that gun other than squeeze a trigger as long as you have shells in the magazine. A bolt-action shotgun is just like a bolt-action rifle, where you physically have to work the bolt of the shotgun to load a new shell. It's a design that you don't see all that frequently in shotguns today, but they are still fairly readily available. A break-action shotgun is a gun actually physically breaks in half but is held together by a hinge. So the barrel of the gun breaks open, and that is where the shells are loaded, as in the end of the barrel that's closest to you. The shells are loaded in there. The barrel is pushed back up. The action is closed at that point and locked, and the gun is ready to fire again. So which of these actions is best for turkey hunting? Well, I'm going to go out on a limb and say even though there have been a bunch of turkeys killed with double barrels or side-by-sides and over and unders, that as far as turkey guns go, they're a bit heavier and a bit more burdensome to carry around in the woods. However, if you're a blind hunter and you like to go and sit in a blind to hunt turkeys, side-by-sides and over and unders are great options, except for the fact that you only have the option of shooting 2 shells before you have to reload the gun. A single-shot shotgun is only going to give you half as many shots as a double barrel or over-under before you have to reload it. So half of 2 is 1, as we know, simple math there. So a single-shot shotgun, you're going to get 1 shot at that turkey, and you're going to have to reload the gun. That, unfortunately, sometimes can lead to a lost turkey, whether that's a missed turkey or one that's been injured that we are unable to recover. Now, a bolt-action shotgun is probably also not going to give you the opportunity for a very quick follow-up shot on a turkey. A semi-auto or a pump shotgun are probably going to give you the best option for follow-up shots on turkeys that may be injured or missed. So personally, I prefer either a pump action or a semi-automatic action shotgun. Okay, now I'm going to move on and we're going to talk about something that is very important, much more important than what gauge or bore, what chamber length, and what action of the shotgun that you shoot, and that is fit. The fit of your shotgun is extremely important for a couple of reasons. It's going to determine how quickly you can shoulder that shotgun to get a first shot or follow-up shot, but it's also going to determine how accurately you can shoot that gun. So, length of pull is the distance from the middle of the trigger of the shotgun to the end of the butt stock. As I mentioned, length of pull is extremely important. The standard length of pull on a shotgun is about 13.5 inches. Now, if the length of pull is too long for a hunter, in other words, you have a child or a small-framed hunter who has a length of pull that is shorter than 13.5 inches, then buttstocks are readily available online. So you could buy a shorter buttstock, or you could possibly buy a less thick recoil pad, or a lot of guns come with spacers between the buttstock and the recoil pad, and those spacers can be removed. So I would recommend if the length of pull is too long, and that's the problem with most shotguns for a lot of people, is that length of pull is too long and they're not able to get down on that gun and aim it as well, and they're not able to get that gun back up to their shoulder for follow-up shots as quickly as they should be. There are alternatives to shorten the buttstock of the gun. Wooden buttstocks on shotguns, or rifles for that matter, can also be cut to size, but as we know, the old saying, measure twice and cut once. Once that wood is cut, it cannot be uncut. So you're going to alter the look of that gun, and I'm going to go out on a limb and say the feel of the gun as well if you do some wing shooting. But the length of pull on that gun can be lengthened once that young shooter grows into the gun or grows out of it. It can be lengthened with spacers or a thicker recoil pad. Alright, so we've talked about a length of pull that's too long. A length of pull that is too short is also easily adjusted by doing what I just mentioned, buying and installing spacers between the buttstock and the recoil pad, or buying a new buttstock that is the proper length, or by buying a thicker recoil pad. Okay, so what's best for turkey hunting? So the length of pull that's best for a turkey hunting shotgun is the length of pull that's best for that individual hunter. I think it's pretty important for a hunter to get sized for length of pull for a shotgun before a new shotgun is purchased. And when getting measured for length of pull, I think it's important to have on the hunting gear that you hunt with most often. So you guys who are up north, if you have a medium weight jacket that you hunt with most often, early in the mornings to keep you warm, then you want to get your length of pull measured with that medium weight jacket on. If it's a lightweight jacket you use, same thing. Put that lightweight jacket on and measure your length of pull, or have it measured before you buy a new shotgun for turkey hunting. All right, so we're going to move on now. We're going to talk about length of barrel. Okay, back in the day, before we got all of these nice fancy chokes and nice fancy shotgun shells, length of barrel of a shotgun was kind of a big deal. We're not going to talk about that right now because we're not there. We are in today. And today, the length of the barrel of your shotgun will not have a huge effect on how that gun patterns or the velocity of the shot coming out of that shell. The length of the barrel today is important in how that gun balances. A longer barrel gun swings better on moving targets. So if you're doing wing shooting, a longer barrel is better, which means it's better in an open dove field or on a crop or CRP field or in a duck blind. But that does not mean it's better in the turkey woods. Shotguns today with short barrels shoot just as accurately. They pattern just as tightly, and they shoot just as fast as guns with longer barrels. The benefit of using a gun in the turkey woods today with a shorter barrel is they're much, 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 much more maneuverable in the turkey woods than a gun with a long barrel. Another benefit, it's less movement in the turkey woods for a wild turkey to see when you're moving that shotgun those last couple of inches to get the barrel on that turkey's head. There's less movement because you've got less barrel. Now, if you're buying a gun that's going to be used for turkeys and waterfowl and upland or migratory birds, then you may want to choose a longer 24 or 26-inch barrel. But if you're going to buy a gun and designate that gun for turkeys only, then a 20 to 24-inch barrel is ideal. You can move around a lot easier in the woods with that gun over your shoulder, and you can maneuver that gun around for a shot a lot easier as well. And we haven't even talked about weight. Obviously, a shorter barrel shotgun is going to have less weight. Less weight equals a less tired turkey hunter at the end of the day. I'm all about that. My recommendation as far as a turkey hunting shotgun goes is for us to not get tied into the old adage of longer is better when it comes to barrel length of shotguns in turkey hunting. Okay, barrel constriction. So, man, this is a topic in and of itself. Chokes limit or constrict the barrel's diameter, thus affecting how tightly the shot or pellets or pattern stays together downrange. Now, most turkey guns, if they shoot a barrel that has a fixed choke on it, that does not have the option or ability to interchange chokes, most turkey guns are going to have a full, an extra full, or a turkey choke in them. In fact, most turkey guns that even do have those interchangeable chokes are going to need a full or extra full or a turkey choke in them. So determining which constriction of choke you need for turkeys depends on your gun, your shotgun shells, and here we go again, the maximum distance that you want to shoot at a wild turkey. All right, we're going to dig in this a little bit deeper because barrel constriction greatly affects our pattern depending on what type of shot is in the turkey shells that we're shooting. A shotgun shell with lead shot typically requires a tighter choke constriction, while a denser or heavier shot, something like a tungsten super shot, which we talked about a few episodes ago, typically shoots better from a more open constriction choke than lead shot likes to come out of. So where do you start? Well, it's your choice really. If you don't mind paying $5 to $15 per turkey shotgun shell that you buy, then those heavier, more dense shot shells like a tungsten steel shot, can deliver more pellets downrange because you can shoot smaller shot with the same or greater foot-pounds of energy delivered downrange at your target with less deformity in that shot, with less deformity in that pellet than you can with lead shot. Lead's very soft and it's easily deformed, and as it comes down the barrel and it's bouncing off of the barrel and it's bouncing off of the other pellets that are coming down the barrel with it, that shot becomes deformed, and when it becomes deformed, it does not fly as true as shot that is not deformed. But if you prefer to pay $1 to $5 per shotgun shell, then you may want to stick with lead or copper-plated lead shot. Let your shot type help you determine the approximate choke constriction for your barrel. Now, from that point, it's a matter of doing research online, and this is very, very, very important at the range as well to determine which choke and constriction shoots best from your gun. So I'm going to give you a place where you can start your research on that. If you go to nitrocompany.com, that's nitrocompany.com, then click Recommendations. You should be able to find the make and model of your gun and look to see which choke typically shoots best in that gun and which constriction of choke as well. Oh, and they're also going to tell you which shells shoot best in that gun. Now, Nitro Company makes their own shotgun shells as well, so you're going to see a lot of those listings are going to have Nitro Company shells as being the ones that pattern the best out of the gun with any particular choke. So just a heads up on that, but it's a great way to start to get a good idea of which choke and which constriction shoots best in your shotgun. All right, let's talk about sights. Okay, so that's all that I've got for you guys for the free portion of today's episode of The Turkey Hunter. If you want to hear the rest of today's episode, where we're going to talk about sights and recoil pads and modifications made by gunsmiths, and the one thing that matters the most about our turkey hunting shotguns to wild turkeys, then you're going to need to subscribe to the show. And the way you subscribe is by doing this. If you will text the word Turkey Hunter, it's one word, text the word Turkey Hunter, no spaces, to the number 44222 and follow directions from there. You can subscribe to the Turkey Hunter Podcast premium content, which will give you access to all of the premium content for the next 52 weeks, as well as the premium content that we've produced in the past. A subscription costs $12 per year. That's basically $1 a month. And of that $12, I'm going to donate $1 of that $12 to the National Wild Turkey Federation. So the more of you guys that subscribe to the show, the more money we can give to the NWTF and help them help us have more turkeys to hunt and have more access to land that has turkeys on it that we can hunt. So that's all that I've got for you guys this week, but you know I'm going to ask you for a favor. My favor is this. If you would please share this episode on your Facebook feed, I would greatly appreciate it. Also, if you're on Twitter, if you would retweet this episode, I'd be very appreciative of that as well. All right, that's all that I've got for you guys this week. Thank you guys so much for tuning in this week. I know that you have choices. I appreciate you spending your time with us. I hope you have a wonderful week, and I look forward to seeing you again next week. Goodbye. Thanks for tuning in. You were just listening to the Turkey Hunter Podcast. If you enjoyed the show, please go on over to iTunes and leave a 5-star review. And make sure to head over to www.iamturkeyhunting.com to subscribe for free turkey hunting tips, tactics, strategies, and product reviews to help you have a more successful turkey season. And stay tuned for upcoming episodes on hunting afternoon birds, how to film your hunt, and the breeding cycle of hens, as well as some guest interviews. Thanks again for listening. We know your time is valuable, and we appreciate you sharing some of it with us. See you next week.